60 luxury Eccles topaz caravans must be won, implores an aspirational typeface on the side of a gargantuan cornflakes box, which my mum is cramming in the boot of our metallic foam-tinted Ford Fiesta. As if football washers, bike reflectors and mini boglins were not enough incentive, now 60 Eccles topaz caravans might fall into your breakfast bowl. These icons of aspiration. The name Eccles topaz evoking the vibrant grey of the Lancashire suburb that we are bisecting as my family crawls along the M602 motorway towards our holiday destination. It's 1993 and we're on our way from West Yorkshire to North Wales, where we will spend 2 weeks in a Sprite Alpine caravan in the rain. And it must be a vacation, mustn't it? Because my dad has stolen all the office stationery to make fun packs for me and my sister. And my Tetris Tetra Pak tessellated into the back seat with all the Ricicles, Sugar Puffs and Honey Nuts loops that you could ever dream of. Forget sunglasses and swimwear. It was highlighter pens and Kellogg's variety packs that were the ritual objects of our annual pilgrimage of self-discovery. But alongside those saccharine cereals was more sensible sustenance. Rows of shredded wheat in their waxy paper ammo packs, the kind of carb-loaded prepper survivalist life hack that would make our fortnight camping in a farmer's backyard seem wilder, more exciting. Bulk buy ready-brek, ensuring that we were equipped for major disruptions to socio-political order, as well as days traipsing around petting zoos in the drizzle. The clutches of miniatures in variety pack wonder cameras gave the adventure a magic realist turn, with zany mascots, their cartoon expressions increasing in mania proportionally to the quantity of E-numbers they guarded within. Our holiday brekkie menu promised junk cereals that me and my sister wouldn't normally have been allowed. "We're not buying that rubbish, it's full of sugar." Quotidian Quaker made way for a serialist collage of charismatic characters. On one box, a psychotic bumblebee is shouting, "I'm loopy," at some bewildered children whose golden beige glow is as genetically homogeneous as the Monsanto seeded corn hoops that they're depicted crunching on. Front-manning an adjacent pack, a hyperactive frog with dilated pupils searches for his next hit of highly addictive smacks, and another one has a paranoid down on his luck leprechaun on it, and he rants at hallucinatory visions who he believes are after his lucky charms. These icons, they seem a bit disturbing with hindsight, don't they? But back in 1993, they were exhilarating. The hedonistic delirium of oat-obsessed anthropomorphic amphibians and crunchy cryptozoological critters signified to me and my sister that anything was now possible, at least for the 2 weeks of the holiday. Variety packs meant holiday and vice versa. The utilitarianism of no-frills wheat bisques made way for unimaginable adventures in corn syrup-infused inflated grain. Our we would smell of sugar puffs for the foreseeable. But these are not just gustatory adventures, factories of olfactory excess. The variety packs were polymorphous identity machines that extended the limits of our tween-age selfhood as we worked out who we wanted to be. a USA endorsed affirmation that we could be anyone. Anyone? Can be anyone. We can be anyone. Yes, you can. Well, I mean, it's more general than that. You can be anyone as long as it falls into these 8 categories. The kind of person who would eat Frosties, or the anyone who would eat Cheerios or fruit and fibre, that anyone, or the Cocoa Pops anyone, etc. And this is what real freedom looks like, you see, variation on a theme. Liberty as multi-grain, multiple choice. Not the existential crisis of having to come up with who you are from scratch. The variety pack, you see, is capitalism's promise of freedom. Subjectivity, Spice Girls style. You assemble your sense of self from a modular megamix of consumer choices. And of course, I always chose Sporty Spice and Ricicles. Oh, Mum, I'm always Ricicles. It's my thing. Tell Rebecca. Well, if you had them last time, love, then she can. No, but it's not like that. Ricicles are who I am. Tony the Tiger is a patriarchal prototype. I want to be the Ricicles non-binary astronaut. Be me, pick me, you can pick me instead, be me. Rival boxes of fortified husks are chanting in the shrill jocularity masked desperation of American voiceover actors who had dreamed of greater things. They're great, I'm great, aren't I? Tell me that I'm great. Collateral corn contextualized by adverts depicting a military-jawed tiger teaching youngsters American sports, turning geeks into surfers in the space of a Foley crackle of sugared maize. As a kid, I'd always wanted to be anyone, and now I could, because this was holiday and there were, what's the collective noun for Kellogg's variety packs? Well, that on the parcel shelf, and only 4 more hours of driving before I could be a crunchy nut or a sugar puff and be saved from suburban sameness by a life boy made of a giant Cheerio, like the one that saves the child in Freud's Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, that one, whose dad nearly eats him alive. Plot twist. Sometimes even on holiday, I chose not to choose from the variety packs. Sometimes all I really wanted to be was to be like my dad, who, since his teenage days as an RAF engineer, has been legendary for eating dozens of Weetabix or shredded wheat from a giant ceramic dog bowl. On holiday, this would be overflowing with the opulence of tip-top evaporated milk. Now, my dad's a successful guy, but deep down, his boodle-bred ambitions can be measured in Ian Botham endorsed breakfast bricks. Aged 10, my burgeoning gender nonconformity was expressed by trying to match the number of whole grain lozenges that my paternal role model could eat. It was this that would distinguish me from traditional femininity. The fact that I could eat 3 Weetabix in one go became a source of personal pride, an extension of my love of dad paraphernalia in general. Swiss Army knives, the smell of Swarfiga, and bicycle repair kits, accoutrements whose queer appeal was matched only by excessive Weetabix consumption. If I could be anyone, that's who I wanted to be, the kind of 10-year-old girl who could neck a trio of mechanically printed ellipses of wheaty wood chippings, guzzled quickly like a pelican whose golden throat was in fact Liverpool Football Club's yellow second away kit, collar splattered with fluffy husks of milky wheat dribbled from the chin. But the history of breakfast cereals, unfortunately, has been much less supportive of corporeal self-discovery. And the first brands were developed by doctors in sanatoriums, and they were designed to be so tasteless and lacking in endocrinal stimulation that they were said to reduce the sexual urges of institutionalized patients. Yeah, cornflakes were anti-masturbation treatments fed to the sickly by John Harvey Kellogg as a vehicle for his puritanical religious beliefs. But whilst Kellogg founded breakfast cereal as we know it today by crusading against bodily fluids, it was seamen, the naval kind, not that naval, the other naval, that had set the culinary precedent for Weetabix as far back as Roman times, in the form of the ship's biscuit. Ship's biscuits were a ration which kept naval seamen alive as they sailed from Europe around the globe, discovering lands and civilizations. Yes, wheaty biscuits are not just good for the colon, they are colonial. Their progenitors helped Europe claim faraway countries allegedly magicked into existence by A4-hued dudes with scurvy and a cargo full of smallpox, ready to claim ancient treasures. Some cereal brands even channeled the hallmarks of racial oppression in their campaigns, whether intentionally or not. Browsing the wonderful online advertising archive cerealoffers.com, thank God for the geek that made that, I'm confronted by imagery of the Weetabix skinheads, characters who were used in the 80s to advertise Weetabix. Why exactly did Weetabix's marketing department think that it was okay to use far-right icons to advertise their whole wheat biscuits? That's a rhetorical question, but I'll answer it. In the 1960s, when the subculture first emerged, skinhead was a hybrid of white working class Cockney style fused with the Jamaican rude boy aesthetics that had sailed in on the Windrush. The skinheads of the 60s were multicultural. It was utopian even, but by the time the 1980s came, Weetabix's Weetagang was launched, and the National Front had infiltrated the skinhead movement by that point, making it synonymous with racism. Those Weetabix skinheads, they wore braces with Bother Boy Docker's work boots, and they listened to ska. They promised to stamp out what they called titchy or airy-fairy cereals, and they challenged us, masochistically, to eat their oval bodies instead. If you know what's good for you, you will. So they would say, and they gained a cult following among real skinheads, and some think that they look like the punky oi type of skins, white t-shirts rather than Ben Sherman's or Fred Perry's. But in later ads, they became soul weekender types with Hawaiian shirts and American football gear, and later still, break dancers. You could collect tokens and send off for a set of Weetagang plaster molds, which enabled you to cast and paint your own little ethically ambiguous clan. The Weetabix skinheads coined the phrase, "just do it," before Nike did. You could send off for a t-shirt with it on, and there was a song as well. Just do it. Capitalism's archetypal slogan. Just do it. Don't think about the consequences. Just do it. Don't think about the consequences of your actions. Just do it. On Facebook, there's a campaign to bring back the Weetabix skinheads, and the page is filled with images of them, including many badly drawn tattoos adorning the bodies of the most committed fans. 953 people have liked the page. But as my research deepened, it became clear that the Weetabix skinheads were the tip of the fatberg when it came to the history of problematic cereal marketing. Browsing the online archives of cerealoffers.com, most of the freebies that you'd find in your cereal in the 30s right through to the 50s and 60s, they were military themed. You could expect to find cut-out frontier rifles in your cornflakes, or plastic cast famous guns of the Wild West to help your kids role-play the oppression of natives. The models and descriptions were alarmingly realistic. A Kentucky flintlock, a Sharps buffalo gun, a Colt 38 pump, or a Winchester for your little soldier. Cut-out cavalry pistols, or peacemakers. That's the name of a type of gun, ironically. Some packs encouraged you to own your own army and collect tokens for a young commando Tommy gun with realistic war medals to commemorate your killings. Kellogg's Cornflakes had a Driving a Chieftain Tank adventure series and taglines like, "Look out, boys and girls, a free atomic sub tested by the Royal Navy." You could collect little busts of colonizers like Columbus, Drake, Cook, and Nelson. And in the 1930s, Quaker gave away books to instruct kids to set up secret societies, complete with hooded masks, officer rolls, treasury reports, and punishments for miscreants, which included standing in a corner marked prison with a sign around your neck saying, "I have broken the rules." Atlases, model castles, and inflatable globes, they were other popular freebies. And when you look at them collectively, Western capitalism's quest for power is the prevailing subtext. Power, which the cereals themselves helped manifest as globally exported convenience foods, a triumph of American industrial farming, processing, and marketing, and a powerful agent of US economic and foreign policy. Breakfast cereals are the epitome of cheap commodity converted by manufacturing to a higher value good, of agricultural surplus turned to profitable export. By the 1950s, guns and atomic subs had been joined by more frivolous freebies, taking the form of funny animal figurines branded Zilly Zoo or Crazy Canines. One prize was a stretchy rubber Tony the Tiger, whose body could be morphed beyond recognition. That Tony looked as genetically modified as a series of plush honey monsters, free in Sugar Puffs, which evolved in style over the years. But all of them looked like they'd been sewn together by drunks, buried, exhumed, and then run over by a novelty chieftain tank several times. And it's hard. It's hard not to think of these mutants as products of lands whose groundwaters have been polluted by the nitrates used to fertilize industrially farmed cereal crops. Nature's deformations rebranded via these toy giveaways as fun eccentricities to entertain the kids. Nitrates were pushed on farmers by governments after the Second World War. A surplus of chemical weaponry, that's what they were, and they boosted crop growth, but they also wiped out soil mycology. And they've turned much of the earth to barren dust. The UN has warned that soils around the world are heading for depletion, with an estimated 60 harvests left. That's all. Make the most of them before they're too exhausted to feed the planet. By the 1990s, cereal brands had cottoned on to that, and they were giving away free trees and free bee seeds to try to cover their tracks, while continuing to distract us with novelty plastic decoys, fun collectibles branded as squirters, poppers, bogglers, and wobbleheads. Names apt for deviant subcultures befitting ecological end times. All this is enough to put you off your Cocoa Pops, isn't it? And yet, I still find cereal really comforting, even as an adult. It's escapist to walk down the breakfast aisle of that big Tesco on Tottenham High Road, anything to escape the actual reality of Tottenham High Road. No aisle is quite as overwhelmingly colourful and full of dramatic characters trying to get my attention, inviting me into their fictional worlds, which are a far cry from the sweaty squalor of the 76 bus that I'll go home on, balancing cardboard troves lined with gifts and tokens, their hypnotic typography promising that my choice is special, golden, or just right. I imagine the advertising execs reaching for my heartstrings through my guts and purse strings, bribing grandmas to claim that they knitted my shreddies so that I can wolf down someone familiar. Small print asterisk on the packet reads serving suggestion to reassure us that no knitting nanas were harmed. But it's okay if it's tasteless, isn't it? We wouldn't want it any other way, really. A flavourless breakfast, same slot every day, even if it's dressed for a variety show, is the only constant in a world where everything else is sensory overload and changing very fast. And since the 1930s, Rice Krispies have been so bland that they've had to promote their sound instead of their taste. What other foods do you eat with your ears? And nowadays, you can even skip the mastication part. Thousands of people spend hours watching strangers slowly crunch their cornies on YouTube, triggering ASMR tingles, effectively outsourcing the embodied itself altogether to our all-brand avatars. And when I think back to my variety-packed childhood and how all that choice made me feel like I could be anyone, or at least I could be the Ricicles astronaut, I realised that I don't want to be that astronaut anymore. I reckon that they're friends with Elon Musk anyway, and 27 years have passed. You know, I've changed, I've moved on, and nowadays breakfast is a time where I can be no one, if only for 5 minutes, to lose myself in the meditative rhythm of the crunch, 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 while dreaming about saving that nitrate-riddled Tony the Tiger, armed only with a frontier rifle, before our 60 remaining harvests run out.